The Biden campaign is attempting to revise history and make it appear as though Joe Biden was not in favor of or supportive of the war in Iraq. In fact, they're aggressively pushing back against some of Bernie Sanders' criticisms when it comes to Joe Biden's past votes on foreign policy. And so let me just be clear, in September, Biden stated he was opposed to Bush's invasion from the get-go. I got them in, and before we know it, we had a shock and awe immediately the moment it started. I came out against the war. So he voted in favor of it. He was supportive of it until the troops were actually there. We did the preemptive war, which set a terrible precedent, by the way. And then he decided, oh, I'm against it. You can't say I was against it from the get-go when you were supportive of it, and then realize that Bush lied to you, the American people, when it came to weapons of mass destruction.
That's a bunch of malarkey.
He had also admitted that he made mistakes, right? So here's a direct quote. I did make a bad judgment, trusting the president, saying he was only doing this to get inspectors and get the UN to agree to put inspectors in. And then you have John Kerry. John Kerry has been making the media rounds. He's a supporter of Biden. He's backing Biden in this primary. And he's trying his hand at this revisionist history junk. And here he is, here's one example.
Senator Sanders has been hitting Vice President Biden about his Iraq war vote. In the last event, you said that a lot of people voted for the Iraq war and that various politicians that voted for the Iraq war were just not told the truth by the
No, what I said was we were not voting. I didn't vote to go to war immediately. I didn't vote for the war. I opposed the war when George Bush finally decided to do what he was doing. But the fact is that we were promised by a president, by an administration, that they were going to do it as a last resort after exhausting diplomacy, that if they had to go to war, it would be with a coalition that they built broadly, and that they would do it only in conjunction with our allies because it had to happen. It didn't have to happen. It was a war of choice. They broke their word with respect to how they would proceed. And so, yeah, it was a mistake to have trusted them, I guess, and we paid a high price for it. But that was not voting for the war.
That is the most insane spin I've ever heard when it comes to a bad vote.
No, I think that hundreds and thousands of dead Iraqi civilians were very convinced by that rationale right there.
This is
well,
insane.
I guess he wasn't technically in support of the war. He only voted to allow it to happen.
Yeah, and by the way, Kerry had famously said, I voted for it before I voted against it in terms of the Iraq war. Yeah. But we're not even done. There's another video. We'll get to that in just a second. Did you want to jump in?
So look, I don't want to get too focused on Kerry. He's got his own issues on this issue. But with Biden, like they're still trying to make this case that he didn't support it. We showed, was it last week or 2 weeks ago? We had the video from 1998 where he said, they're talking about getting inspectors in, but honestly, I don't think is any number of inspectors until you get Saddam out of there, you're never gonna know. Like 5 years before the war, he was saying, you're never gonna know until you get rid of Saddam. I don't care how many inspectors you get.
We have one other flashback, tasty little video featuring Biden. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But more revisionist history from Kerry.
I think that Bernie, regrettably, is distorting Joe's record in the following sense. I mean, he doesn't have what Joe Biden has, which is 8 years of sitting on the National Security Council and demonstrating his judgment, whether it was on his leadership dealing with the migration that was flowing across our border and helping to resolve that with the presidents of those countries, or his work pulling troops out of Iraq and negotiating that and working as perhaps the lead point man on that effort. I think that I know very well what Joe's position was because I answered those questions back in 2002, 2003 and 4. And it was very clear that what we were doing was listening to a president who made a pledge that he was going to do diplomacy, that he was going to exhaust diplomacy, build a coalition. And ultimately, we learned, as Joe did and I did, that the intelligence was distorted. So Joe spoke out and criticized. Joe was against what they were doing. The vote was not a vote specifically to go to war. It was a vote for the president to have leverage with respect to getting Saddam Hussein back to the negotiating table, back to the inspections, excuse me.
So let's go back to a video featuring Joe Biden going after his Democratic colleagues who were a little more critical about a preemptive war in Iraq.
Some of my own party have said that it was a mistake to go to Iraq in the first place and believe that it's not worth the cost, whatever benefit may flow from our engagement in Iraq. But the cost of not acting against Saddam, I think, would have been much greater. And so is the cost, and so will be the cost, of not finishing this job. The President of the United States is a bold leader, and he is popular. The stakes are high, and the need for leadership is great. I wish he'd use some of his stored up popularity to make what I admit is not a very popular case. But I and many others will support him when he makes the case.
Oops.
I mean, how much of an assist is he getting every single day by the media in not just bang the gavel, this thing is done. He obviously supported the war in Iraq. He arguably supported it before George W. Bush supported it. And even the defense, even if that wasn't true, let's say that Kerry's pitch is completely accurate. You still gotta give the big W to Bernie for their defense is, yeah, we were just duped, man. We didn't see it coming.
I know, that's their strongest defense.
What are you supposed to do?
That's their strongest defense, and even that defense is easily debunked.
That George W. Bush, as he had Dick Cheney and surrounded himself with all these neoconservatives and all these hawks, we couldn't see it coming. We couldn't see that they were that this was going to turn into a gigantic debacle. Okay, then you're like, is that not supposed to be representative of how you'll approach foreign policy situations in the future? Bernie did see it. He did see that it was gonna be a disaster. And honestly, it's not even that it's that high of a bar. The only people that couldn't clear that bar were people who felt the political pressure in DC at the time.
Right.
But I know that when I was in my freshman year in UConn, I knew it was a stupid idea to go into that conflict then. 100%. Many of you watching this video probably felt the same. It was abundantly clear that this was gonna be a disaster.
I was in 11th grade. I'll never forget this. I've told
Don't
this story
point
on
out
the
that
show
you're
before.
younger.
I know, but like not by much.
I was in kindergarten. Yeah.
Anyway, I was reading a New York Times article. I had my book. We're in English class. I have my book, but I had no interest in reading the book that was assigned to us. I was reading a New York Times article that had a bunch of quotes from Bill Kristol, who's a giant war hawk, like wants to go to war with Iraq. I remember reading that piece, thinking to myself, this is such a bad idea. I really hope that we don't invade Iraq. As an 11th grader, I'm an idiot. Like, I don't know anything, right? And I am smart enough to understand that this preemptive war would be disastrous, okay? And what we're hearing now from the Biden campaign is, I was against it from day one. Easily debunkable, right? Everyone puts out the evidence showing that he was not against it from day one. And then he says, I was lied to, I was duped, I fell for it. Okay, that's pathetic. You're trying to become the president of the United States. You should be smarter than that. But even that defense is debunkable with the video that we just showed you.
He was not just in support of it on the day that the vote happened. He was in support of it years before and years after.
Yep.
In both cases, he was castigating people in his party who weren't sufficiently hawkish for him. In every way that it means anything, he supported that war.
Exactly. So that's who Joe Biden is. So when they talk about how he is willing to reach across the aisle to get things done, understand that he's not willing to do that to accomplish progressive policies that we desperately need. He's not doing that for universal health care. He's not doing that for environmental policies that might protect this planet so we can keep living on it. He's doing it to concede to what Republicans want. When you look at his record, they're all concessions. When it comes to the busing issue, when it comes to war, when it comes to a host of issues that we have a problem with as progressives, that liberals should have a problem with. He, somehow gets away with it. The media doesn't cover it, but we'll cover it. And this is what the truth is. This is what he represents. This is what he stands for.
TYT is all about challenging and disrupting the status quo, and so is Aspiration. Aspiration does not invest your money into fossil fuel businesses that harm our planet, such as pipelines and oil drilling. Instead, you'll be able to fight climate change with tools like AIM, the Aspiration Impact Measurement, and Planet Protection. They also don't hit you with outrageous fees for you to access your own money. You can even earn cash back and get free ATM uses up to 5 times a month. Head to aspiration.com/TYT to learn more. For a limited time, get 30 days of free TYT membership when you sign up.